Alright guys, hello! Welcome to Autonomous Meatbags 2018 Gamescom stream. We are your hosts. My name is Akil and
Charlie fam.
Charlie fam. His
I've got
last
my
name is
arms
Fam.
raised in victory.
They're very raised.
I just want everyone to know that.
Of course, everyone must know that. Now today we're gonna go through basically Gamescom, as the title of the video may have clued you into. And we're going to talk about what's been confirmed, what's not been confirmed, and what we personally want from Gamescom. Now, going through the list, let's start off with Microsoft. Now,
Okay.
They're confirmed to be there, and they're going to show off Forza Horizon 4. Now, you're a racing game guy. So, like...
To an extent.
Pardon?
To an extent. I'm not out here, tweaking settings in Gran Turismo and that.
You're not dressing
you
like
give me a
cars.
fun game like Forza Horizon, I'm driving about and having a grand old time.
I remember you being really hyped about it. Well, not hyped, but interested in it during the E3 stream we had.
Yeah, I still am. The thing is normal Forza games are their answer to Gran Turismo, and so I can't get into them that much because I feel like they're a bit too tech focused. They're a bit too they're too realistic is basically what I'm saying. But Horizon, it takes it just slightly far enough away to where I super enjoy it, because it gives you just a dumb world to drive about in. Not dumb, it just gives you landscape to drive about in, and then you have cool challenges, you have cool races. It's the best version of that type of game. It's not quite Diddy Kong Racing, but it's good.
So you like the arcade aspect of it?
Oh yeah, big time. I can't do realistic races. I can only do arcadey ones.
I thought it was still simulated, but you're going around places other than racetracks in Horizon. I thought that
kind
was
of, yeah. It's not, but
it.
they do tone it down slightly. It's nowhere near as simulated as the Motorsport series is.
So this is them going for the Need for Speed crowd, basically.
Yeah, the Need for Speed crowd, the Colin McRae Dirt crowd, those sort of people.
Listen, as long as they have the Need for Speed Underground soundtrack in it, I'll have some interest. But if you don't have that, then I'm fine. I'm gonna keep my distance. I'm not a racing guy anyway.
It's not a 10 out of 10 racing game until it has Snoop Dogg and the Doors' Riders on the Storm. I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's my only want and need in life.
Great song. Also, next on the list, they are also gonna be showing off Sea of Thieves. That's that pirate game that all the Let's Players... Well, if you remember, I want to say a year or two ago at the E3, they showed it off and it was a bunch of actual YouTube Let's Players just pretending to be excited about pirating the ship and doing pirate things. And it's goofy and wacky and you should enjoy it. Yay!
Yeah.
And then it came out and it failed spectacularly.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of... There was part of the hype, I think, around it was, oh my god, they're letting Rare make a game again. But the problem is whenever you make an online game like that, you're fighting against all of the other online games that already exist, because it's a lifestyle as opposed to I don't know, Last of Us, say, where you play it through once or whatever. And it just...
I love how you categorize it as lifestyle.
It lives and dies by its content. I hate saying it, but it lives and dies by that. And it didn't have enough when it came out to where it could put people's attention for more than a very short amount of time. And one of the interesting things was it was built for everyone to have fun together. You get 4 of your mates and you just go sailing and stuff, and that's great and everything. But even if you look at the Let's Play market, which is basically what that thing is designed for, that dissipated real quick. The amount of group of Let's Players who would play it together and then after a week would stop playing together because it just didn't have much to it. And that really speaks a lot about what the problem was with that game.
Was it broken at launch? I remember when it came out, everybody was talking about there's not much to do in it, but I didn't hear much about it being glitchy or the servers going down.
There wasn't that much to glitch. There was some minor issues like there is when you launch anything, but there wasn't actually any real problems on the tech side of it. It was purely just what they were giving you.
I think that what they're trying to do is, remember when Destiny came out and there was not much to do, and then as time went on, they was like, we're gonna sort of relaunch it, but not really. And then people started to like it afterwards when they started to add more I'm gonna say the word content.
I hate you so much. To be fair, I said it first.
Yeah, you open the floodgates. I'm just following through.
I was that one in Lord of the Rings, the orc that like runs into the wall at Helm's Deep and blows up the wall, and then you're just the rest of the horde flying.
I'm just the horde that destroys everything else.
That was the nerdiest reference I've made in a while.
No, you made some nerdy references. There's been a few.
I love Forza Horizon. I don't like tuning the cars though.
Well, that's sort of anti-nerdy. That's anti-nerdy to a point of being nerdy again. It goes
True,
back
right?
around.
Yeah, I've gone all the way through. I've gone from nerd to jock and then back into nerd again.
All right, State of Decay 2 is the other thing that it's supposed to be showing off, and this is that. I remember seeing this. This came out as well, didn't it? This game's already out.
Yeah.
And it's like zombie. It's a zombie type of.
Did you play the first one?
No, but I remember seeing the trailer for the second one, and then the whole idea of having your own story of sorts, and then you could, like, depending on who dies, you take over the next person. I found that part interesting, quite interesting actually. It's one of the things that I found interesting about last year's Microsoft E3. It's just when it launched, similar to Sea of Thieves, you know, people were complaining about it, so I just didn't ever pick it up. I still might actually, now that I have a better PC, but what do you think they'll be doing with that? Do you think it's similar to what they're going to be doing with Sea of Thieves, where it's barren or broken at launch and they're doubling down on it and showing that, hey, we still support these games now, and we're going to add to things that we didn't necessarily do the best when it came out?
I think
what are your thoughts?
The thing is, the State of Decay 2 is so it's like you don't control one person, you control like a group of survivors essentially, and you build up survivors in the camp, and then you're doing missions and stuff. The problem is the problem I saw, at least with State of Decay 2, was that it wasn't different enough from State of Decay 1 to make it a significant sequel, really. Like,
so what changes did they make?
Like, you were in a different place, they had added elements, but it wasn't hugely different. And so I think a lot of people who State of Decay was already a love or hate game to begin with, because of just the game it is, and also those games are janky. Like, they just are. They're not like high budget games, so they do have a lot of jank to them. So if you're not going to make a huge effort, then I think you're going to lose already part of the audience that the small audience you already had for it. I think the second you don't make a significant change, you're cutting part of that audience out again.
Okay, I might give it a try depending on what they show off. Like, if they show that, you know, they've refined it and it made improvements, and just expand upon that whole idea of you're a group, and, you know, the group survival mentality and your own story building that way, I might give it a pick up, because I enjoy games like that. The whole dynamic gameplay aspect introduced in games like Shadow of Mordor and such.
I enjoy it. I enjoy both of them, actually. I really like one and I like two. But
how much hours have you put into them?
One I put in a significant time. I don't know how many. We're talking maybe
100?
Nah. It's not Shadow of Mordor.
50? You put 100 in Shadow of Mordor?
Bro, so Shadow of Mordor does that thing where it tells you how many hours is on your save file. At one point, I'd completed, I think 50% of the game it was, and I'd played 80 hours.
Jesus Christ! You really
just
because
I love running about and killing the orcs. And
you love
like,
the nemesis system a bit too much.
Oh, bush. It's great. Shadow of Mordor's excellent, but
it's the voice actors that really make that game.
Oh, it does though. It really does. It's like you're walking along, you just hear them like, oh, "I'm gonna get that ranger," and then you're like, sneak out of a bush, quick kill, and you're off again. It's great. Jump on a Caragor right away. That game's excellent.
Oh, you go, you're mine, and he's yours now.
You thought you killed me.
And his face is all fucked up and shit.
And he's got like a plate over his eye,
like
and
a beehive on it.
I'm definitely the same I was before. Don't mention my eye plate.
It's great.
I love that game so much. Game. But no, it is worth looking into. I think it's one of those things where if you just look at it on paper and just see it, it looks a bit crappy. It looks a bit janky. But the gameplay loops and what it introduces it's like the ultimate Walking Dead game in a way, because it's like about a group of survivors and growing that. You're not getting the emotional story told to you. You build the stories from what you do in the game. and I do think it is worth a shot. I think if there's any part of it that sort of like appeals to you, I do think it is worth a shot. And to be honest with you, if you're going to buy it on PC, it'll probably be very cheap on a Steam sale very soon. So
yeah, or I think it's only on the actual Windows Store.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So it's like that. It's like an Xbox original game, but I'll still give it a try. It seems interesting to me, and depending on what they show off at Gamescom, might push me. Next up, we have, it wasn't last year's Critical Darling, it was the year before's in Ori and the Blind Forest sequel.
Yes.
Now, Ori is sort of in a similar position as Cuphead was. Was Cuphead this year or was it last year? I think it was...
Cuphead was this year, I think.
It was this year. Okay, so Ori was either last year or the year before with the whole, it's an indie darling game, and it's actually damn good, and people outside of the usual indie sphere of influence just talk about it and really give it props. And it's one of Xbox's only real recent exclusives that have really delivered in everything that was promised. So for a lot of people, the sequel will be huge, and personally I'm quite interested to see what they do as well, particularly because I love Metroidvania games. Like, Metroidvania is my jam. I've said this before, but Castlevania, Metroid, all that type of go forward then come back, and with upgrades to access areas or get power-ups that you couldn't before. Love that. Arkham Asylum's like that as well. So I want to see you gave an OK symbol for anyone listening at home. I really want to see more of this. I think out of the whole list that they have, well, we have, for all those listening, we have a list of all the people, and Microsoft's list, that one is the one that I'm most interested in personally. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said about Ori, and I think I love platformers, and it's just one of those games which just has an incredibly nice vibe, and I think that's something that games of that nature, independent platformers mostly, tend to just knock out of the park compared to other attempts. It's just like, if you look at even what's it called, Limbo. Even Limbo has a really chill vibe, despite the horrendousness that's going on with giant spiders and kids dying. It has a vibe.
Yeah. Indies have been doing that for over a decade or so now.
Yeah, I mean, that's their bread and butter, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you had like Super Meat Boy, Braid, Fez, which I love. I love Fez. So I'll give this a try. Also, the art style reminds me of another game that you made sure that I remembered. Rayman. It reminds me a lot of Rayman.
That was the one amendment to the list, by the way.
You made the font so big.
Yeah, I made it as big as I could. Yeah, it's like, if I don't think we're going to see it. I think if we were going to see it anywhere, I think it would probably be Paris Games.
Oh wait, we're not Rayman yet. We're gonna have a whole section for that. Let's just preface.
Okay.
We'll
yeah, it reminds me a lot of that. Like,
but the art style.
That game is one of the only. How do I word this? One of the only games made by a significant publisher, like a huge developer in Ubisoft Montreal, to have that sort of vibe. And the indie games that do that, I don't know, I just really enjoy it. It's just calm. It's like, you can go from something like a shooting game like Call of Duty or whatever, where it's just unnecessary tension, to like something which is just really chill, and it's like, it's just nice sometimes. It's just what you've got to play it sometimes.
You know, I will say that games like that there is one 3D game that reminds me of that, and that's, you know, the game Rime, R-I-M-E?
I do know Rime, yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of a 3D version of that, the whole cel-shaded, super artistic but chill game. It reminds me of that a lot. Now,
yeah, that's a bit Shadow of Colossus has that vibe as well, a little bit.
Yeah. Have you played the new Shadow of Colossus? Well, the remake.
No, I haven't. I'm planning to, but I haven't yet.
It should be real cheap now. Like, it already came out at like a budget price, if I remember.
Yeah. I mean, we've already discussed my money woes privately, so you know. But...
yeah, we won't get into that. Now, last game that Microsoft is reported to be showing off is a game that everybody tends to forget about. It's Crackdown 3. Thoughts?
I like Terry Crews.
I think everybody.
I think the thing is with Crackdown is it just didn't have one or two didn't really have a loop or story or anything I could really get behind significantly. They were early in the Xbox 360 generation,
carnage,
and I just think it never quite got what I wanted from it, and so I sort of passed them really quickly. This third one I didn't particularly care about when it was announced at the Xbox One launch, and I still don't particularly care about it now.
Wait, has it really been that long since they announced this game?
Yeah, Crackdown 3 got announced at the Xbox One launch. It was shown off at the Xbox One launch when they were talking about like DRM and all other rubbish, like TV. That was when it was. It's been that long.
We're coming towards the end of this gen, where we are like a year or two left on this gen, and it's still not out. And you counting on Terry Crews to sell it now?
I think the thing is like any hype that sort of surrounded that has sort of died off. I think there's obviously a core audience for it, but any massive hype for that game has died off, and so they're looking at it and saying, I don't know how much resources they've devoted to it. I don't suspect a lot. I would almost had to guess that it essentially got cancelled at some point and then
remade from the ground
basically. I just think, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a big game at all.
What studio do you think What studio makes that, by the way?
I can't remember.
Let me check. Crackdown.
Because that's how little I think the people I've been paying attention to it specifically. I don't remember who's making it.
Nobody knows about this game. Well, Real Time Worlds made the first one. Mm-hmm. I'm on Wikipedia right now. I'm just looking through to see. Crackdown 3 is made by
Terry Crews.
I would love it. I'd buy it just for that.
I would.
Sumo Digital, and I think I remember seeing them before. They're a UK dev.
Who did you say?
Sumo Digital.
Oh, is it being made by Sumo? Okay, yeah, Sumo UK. They did Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing.
They've done a lot.
Little Big Planet 3. They've done a bunch of stuff.
I was about to say, do you think they'll be closed down? No, they won't be closed down. Based on this, I think
they clearly got. I think
they have other
Sumo
priorities.
Are super capable, and they just get sort of hired in to make capable games. But
yeah, I think they just have other priorities. Honestly, this is low on their list when you look at the amount of games that they've made. All right, so on to what we hope is going to be at Microsoft's. Well, what they might show off. Well, I have one game in mind, and I talked about this at E3. Unfortunately, it didn't come true, but based on what Phil Spencer said about showing off an open world game later on at E3, it really does lend precedence that we could see it now. And that game is Fable 4. Now, I'm not even crossing my fingers anymore because it might not happen. It definitely might not happen. They might even say Fable 4 is going to be on our next gen console, because knowing Microsoft, they have all but abandoned this console and they're just looking at the next console.
I don't know. I mean, we obviously disagree on that bit because we had that conversation at E3, but I don't think we'll see it at Gamescom. I think that's a press conference game. I think you make a huge deal out of that, and I think without a traditional press conference, I don't see why they would show it off at Gamescom, honestly, because unless they just like maybe they drop a trailer and it be a huge announcement thing, but without someone to announce it, I don't know how effective that would be here. I think you'd more likely see it at an E3 next year.
True, but then I'd hope for at least maybe a teaser. Even a teaser, just something.
I would die. I would die of happiness. I would be super hyped.
Just give me a drip of water, because I'm starved. I just want something. Just something, man. Microsoft. But that's about it for Microsoft. Now, personally, I don't have much stock in Microsoft, and that's the reason why I didn't seem as hyped about most of these titles. But I do have a genuine level of interest in all the things they do, especially considering they recently purchased all those devs. I think that they may show off one or two things from either of those, since they, out of all the three, they're the only ones that actually have a presence at Gamescom this year. I think Sony has a presence, but I don't think they're going to be showing anything off at all.
Yeah, I think the difference between Xbox and the other two is that the other two are just exhibiting games, where I feel like the Xbox have their almost Treehouse-esque live stream thing going on.
They have plans for Gamescom. they're actually treating it like a proper promotional event.
I think, like I said, with a lack of a press conference itself, I don't think we're going to see anything major. We'll probably just see extra bits of information about their titles that are happening. Like say, like State of Decay, we'll get an update for. We'll get updates for a couple of things. I don't think we'll see anything particularly major.
Yeah. All right. Next up on the list, I'm tempted to leave this for last because I believe that both of us had games of E3 from this one developer.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll go into it now.
Okay.
Capcom confirmed back at E3 that they were going to show off the 2 games they showed off at E3 at Gamescom. And that is Devil May Cry 5 and Resident Evil Remake 2. You're shaking your head quite a bit.
I'm not shaking, mate. I'm nodding. I'm hyped.
Now, let's go into Resident Evil Remake 2 first, because I want to get your impressions, because they've shown a lot off of it since they showed it off at E3. And everybody who's attached to it and everybody who's been viewing it seems to be freaking ridiculously hyped over this game.
Yeah.
Can we go over your particular thoughts and what you're hyped about for the game?
First of all, it's in the Resident Evil 7 engine. Whatever that engine is, I don't know what engine it is, but it's in that engine and it looks really, really good because of it. It does it just looks. So the thing is like, obviously my favorite Resident Evil is Resident Evil 4, and I understand why. Like when they remade 1 in a very specific way to make it as similar to 1 as possible. Like the only difference really you had, apart from graphics and all that sort of stuff, was you could control it in a non-tank control way, which is calm, and that was fine. With this, what's so interesting about it is they're basically remaking the story and the gameplay elements of 2, but have given it that Resident Evil 4 camera angle, which changes it completely. It changes the way that the game flows, and they've added stuff to it and from other incarnations. They've even added stuff from other Resident Evil games into this one, like other elements, other puzzles and stuff like that. So it's really, really... Like, you had 1, which was a remake of 1, and that was the perfect thing for that one, because everyone was like, I just want 1, and they get that hype thing of just 1. And now they're saying, we're remaking 2, but we're remaking it in a slightly different way. We're sort of, it's, I don't know, it's a really smart way of doing it, I think, and it's gotten me way more interested. Like, I would have been hyped for just a Resident Evil 2 straight remake, but them introducing the new elements, such as the new camera angle, new gameplay styles, new puzzles, new everything, makes me even more excited than I would have been otherwise. I think it's the perfect decision from them in that part. And also, it just looks great. It just looks really good.
It's pretty.
And I'm incredibly excited for it.
Did you play the original Resident Evil 2 though?
Yeah, PS1.
You played the whole thing? When it came out, you played the whole thing, or did you just play part of it?
I don't think I've ever finished it. I played it when I was a kid, and then again a couple of years ago. And I don't think I ever finished it, just because I get distracted really easily. But yeah, I have played the original. I really like it.
Now, I sort of know I know somewhat the lore. Let's get into the lore of Resident Evil.
Oh.
Now, before Resident Evil 7 came out, everyone was talking about how, is it a reboot? And then Capcom was like, no, it's actually in the Resident Evil universe. And people didn't understand how, because, the enemies in it were quite different from what we had in the previous games. And then when they played it, it turned out, yeah, it's actually in the Resident Evil universe, and Chris Redfield is in it. And this seems to continue in that same vein, but it seems like they're working backwards and updating all the previous games to the Resident Evil 7 standard. Do you think they'll continue doing this? So, like, instead of them looking at, like, Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 just steadily became more action-packed, do you think they're going to go back and say, alright, let's redo Resident Evil 3 and keep the horror aspects of it, but also improve upon it, like you said they've done with the Resident Evil 2 remake, and sort of build their way back up to 7? Do you think they may do that?
Potentially, but I think let's get into some lore. It gets a bit, after 2 it does get muddy, because you think you've got, it doesn't just go straight to 3 Nemesis. You've got like Code Veronica. You've got a ton of different games that all of a sudden happen, and so I think there's a lot of power in the nostalgia, especially of 1 and 2. Code Veronica as well, and 3 sort of lesser so, but 1 and 2 have a lot of nostalgia drawing power, as it were. So I think whereas 1 you could say basically was a cash grab, in a way, like they just remade it purely for the money. There was no like significant changes. It's the definitive version of that game that's amazing. Like, I'm not dissing that at all. This one introducing new gameplay is really interesting because it's showing that they're clearly playing around with the idea of what a Resident Evil horror game can be. After what happened with 7 and 6, they're clearly just trying to, I think, testing the water for what a horror game can be. Because 7 felt a lot like they took a very heavy influence from Amnesia and from Outlast specifically.
Like indie.
Right, the indie horror games that were coming out and were doing huge business and were first person, and so it felt very much like they were looking towards that and being inspired by that. They wouldn't admit that, but that's what it seemed like. And so for 2 to go, honestly, I sort of vaguely remember them saying, "Oh, we were making it at the same time they made theirs," and I was like, I don't believe that. But it being third person is really interesting, and I think shows they're potentially testing the waters with something that's safe, which is Resident Evil 2, something that they will make their money back on Resident Evil 2 because the hype around what Resident Evil 2 was and the excitement around that. And I think they're maybe testing the waters for whether a horror game can exist in in third person, like 4 did, for example. And I hope it does, because I like horror games, but I don't like stuff jumping at my face. Do you know what I mean? I'm not about that life. I'm not about that life. So, whether they'll go through and do more or not, I think depends. I doubt it. I don't think they're doing a Yakuza situation where they're just going through and remaking the old ones. I would like that, but I think the nostalgia power certainly drops off heavily after 2. Between 2 and 4, it drops off heavily, and I don't think.
So you think he'll go straight to 8 next, if they was going to make another Resident Evil? Yeah,
I think it would be a new installment.
They'll just go forwards. I could see that. Personally, my first Resident Evil was actually Resident Evil 3. So that's the one that I have all the nostalgia for. Nemesis and the whole idea of people chasing you. Like, that
I love Nemesis.
Terrifies me. But I really want to play it. But Resident Evil is one of those game series where it's like some of the Kingdom Hearts, in that it's so old now, but also so recent, and there's so much there that you have to go through. Where I know that if I play the latest one, I'm gonna think to myself, no, this is wrong. I need to play Resident Evil 1 first, then work my way through. I need to play all of them, and I'll end up spending quite a long time doing that. And I will love it, but I sort of need to clear my schedule. And when you
it's that completionist streak inside you which wants to do it all. I have the exact same thing.
And when you look at the end of this year and you look at all these games coming out, I can't see myself getting through it at the end of this year. It'll have to be beginning of next year or next time there's a drought. But
I get that 100%. I mean, PES is coming out, so nothing else is going to be played for a while.
But I do want to play it. It looks unbelievable to me. And it's one of the 2 reasons why Capcom won E3 for me. Now, next up is my personal unbelievably hype game, and that is Devil May Cry 5. Now, since they showed off the trailer at E3, they showed off some gameplay as well, and my lord, it is everything I want it to be. The way Nero was the main character of Devil May Cry 4, Dante was in it as well, and in this one, he plays almost exactly like he did in Devil May Cry 4, but now he has new arm moves. I remember things that he could do back in the previous games that he could still do, and they've reworked all the animations in the same engine that they're using for Resident Evil Remake 2, the unbelievably pretty engine. And now everything looks more photorealistic, and they showed off more of Dante, and there's another character as well that you play as, and it feels like all the people who got annoyed over the reboot for its gameplay, I know you really liked the reboot, but a lot of people who played the original series, me included, looked at the reboot and looked at the gameplay of it and was like, it's more limited because they use color-coded enemies and you need to use specific weapons to kill certain enemies. So it sort of makes the combo potential a bit less freeform and more like, okay, you use the red thing to kill the red enemy, or you use the blue thing to kill the blue enemy. I don't know which way it was. It's one of the two. Also, in general, when you look at the way people sort of saw the new main character, well, the rebooted Dante, people were like, eh. But with this one, it feels like they sort of took all the criticism that the reboot had and said, we get it. All right, we understand that you guys didn't like the fact that we tried to westernize it a bit too much. And we also understand that the reason you love Devil May Cry is for the freeform combos and the super crazy action and the tongue-in-cheek humor that Bayonetta gets so right. So we will just bring it back. I'm gonna put it in a new engine, and we're gonna make you feel like we are listening to the fan base. And it's another one of the reasons why Capcom feels like they're on the top of the world right now. And with the fact that it's coming out in February, I'm ready. Plus, based on the trailer, you see hints of Virgil coming back and the story implications of it possibly being set after Devil May Cry 2, with Dante possibly coming out of hell at the end of that game. It's like I'm sort of nerding out a bit, but it's something I've waited for since, I want to say, 2010 or 11. Like, straight after Devil May Cry 4, I was thinking to myself, cool, I'm gonna get number 5, and it feels like from then to then, a lot of the not survival horror, extreme action games, if you want to call them that, have sort of become a dying breed. Like Ninja Gaiden has sort of stopped. The last game I had was Yaiba, and that wasn't that great.
Yeah.
And the last main series game, 3, wasn't that great. God of War has changed direction into a phenomenal game, but it's no longer an extreme action game. It's more like methodical combat almost. Well, will also becoming an action RPG.
It's the Dark Souls effect, isn't it?
Yeah. Bayonetta is the only real one that still does that, and we've only gotten 2 games, and the third one we don't know when's coming out. Great game, but there's nothing really else like it out there
Scratch
anymore.
that itch, yeah.
There's nothing there for people who love games like that. So for DMC 5, it's like you have that audience, plus you have the fact that a lot of people who never played it before seem to be really taken with what they showed off at E3 as well. And it's like, this is huge for Capcom, because coming off of this year where you have Monster Hunter World, which smashed, it's become their top selling game, and you had Street Fighter 5 finally start becoming profitable, and you have them going Mega Man 11, Resident Evil Remake 2, Devil May Cry 5. It feels like next year we're gonna get the return of good old Capcom, rather than Capcom we've gotten since mid PS3 or so, where they just went, let's try and westernize things, or let's just not take risks as much, if you get what I mean.
I think it's I agree. I mean, the fact that again, you said like DMC I love, but it was made literally by a Western studio. It was made by a studio in wherever it is, Cambridge or whatever, and so naturally it wasn't going to be the same as before. What would you say is better for you? What would you say you like more, DMC 4? Devil May Cry 4 or DMC?
I don't like DMC that much. The thing about DMC is that the things I enjoy about what they did was the environments. That's when I look at what does it do that improves upon what came before. And in terms of combat, it's not as good. But in terms of the way they've set up the environment and the way that certain things will jut out and have graffiti on it and act like it makes you feel like it's a demonic city, it does better than any other game in the series. Where I think it sort of falls apart is that I don't like Dante at all. Fair. He comes off as like this whiny, annoying guy. Like, just less of, he's over the top, and he may seem like a jerk on the outside, but he doesn't really have, any redeeming factors. He might have some later on, but even then, when they showed him off later on, he just seemed a bit boring, if you would. And for me, it feels like if instead of them making something interesting, they just tried to redo what they do with Devil May Cry 3 with the whole, it's a 19 or 21-year-old Dante who's just getting started, and he has a bit, he's a bit of a jerk, But while I really liked him in DMC3, I did not like this take on of that character. But the other things I did like were, mostly just the art style choices in terms of the environment.
Yeah, also, I do think it looks stunning. I don't think anyone can really argue that.
Also, Virgil, I didn't mind how they rebooted him visually. Personality-wise, again, but visually he looked great, and I think that they really did make the idea of him being an English gentleman almost, and he's more refined than Dante. That was really cool. But there's not much else that I could really say I would say it's better than the previous series with. I think if DMC had a different name, people wouldn't hate it as much, but because it had the name that it did, you have to always compare it to the previous games, and
it tried something different. And ultimately, like, it's always a risk to try something, to change an established character so much. It's always a huge risk. And the character choice they made, I think, was probably the one which would make that struggle the most. Because the thing is I like him. I actually prefer DMC Dante to actual Dante. I prefer it way more. But I can completely get why an audience who, like, because I'm not that married to Devil May Cry. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not something that is that big for me.
When was your first one? Like, when was the first one you played?
2, I think was the first one. I didn't play the first one. I have now, but I didn't at the time. I played 2 because I remember I had a demo of it and I really liked it, and so I think I want to say I borrowed it from Blockbuster. Right.
You need to play 3.
I've played. So now I've played 1, 2. I've got 3 somewhere, but I haven't played it yet.
You need to play 3.
I've played 4.
It's so good.
And DMC.
Yeah, play 3, and honestly, Devil May Cry 3 is what a lot of people sort of look at as one of the greatest video games of all time, and even now it's like seen as the greatest extreme action game out there because it was so ahead of its time, and most current extreme action games take so much from it.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun. And it also started the whole cheesy Dante and cheesy DMC trend that we sort of have now. But yeah, DMC5 is... I'm ready to see more gameplay at Gamescom.
And it's coming out at the right time. It's got the right time. The window's
February,
perfect.
Isn't it?
The window's perfect for it. Because if you're looking for, like, if you look at, like, they just basically just follow the Monster Hunter model. Because Monster Hunter had a big name, but there wasn't, like,
not in
it had
the
a
West.
Big name, but the name was well known. The name was well known.
They steadily built it up.
Yeah, and then they released it at the exact right time to where a lot of people were interested in it and got involved with it. And so I think it's the right time for DMC. It's the right time for Devil May Cry 5. Hopefully it does well for them, because clearly they're clearly trying to put that franchise in a place where the fans want it. So hopefully it succeeds in the same way that Monster Hunter World did.
Yeah. Next up, we have Blizzard. Now, Blizzard have been doing a lot of things to do with Diablo. Originally, I thought that they was going to show off Diablo 4 at E3, but they sort of pushed it along, and they made a recent announcement talking about how they have an expansion, I think, that they're going to talk about, and like a few other games that they're going to be talking about towards now to the end of this year. Now, the obvious idea is Diablo 4, but they also showed off Diablo on the Switch is coming out as well, which I might play. I don't know if I will. Depending on how they price it, I might pick it up. But we've talked about Diablo before. What would you be looking forward to for Diablo?
I don't know if I would. Like, I think Diablo is such a specific thing. It's an acquired taste in that sense. And, like, the gameplay that Diablo has traditionally had doesn't really appeal to me in the same way that MMOs don't. Like, just top-down, like, the only top-down games in that sense, which are click-heavy, I guess, that's ever really attracted me were Fallout.
Did you play the original Fallouts?
Yeah, I put after 3. So I played 3, and, like, 3 was one of my favorite games of all time. And then I was like, wait, so what's the other ones like? And I saw them and bought them on a Steam sale, and went back and played them and really loved them. But Diablo has always been one of those things where I just can't get hold of it for some reason. Just can't. It just doesn't grasp me. So I think then the way Blizzard work, Blizzard are very, very good at appealing to their core audience. Like, they're very steadfast in the way they work, and so I suspect for a new Diablo or whatever it might be, would appeal very hard to the audience who love Diablo and to no one else, and that's not a bad thing whatsoever.
I think that I want to jump into that franchise really badly. And I think, unlike other game series, I just want to try out the latest version, because I don't think I could go back to Diablo 1 or 2 or 3. Like, well, maybe 3, but I've played so many old games like that. I think they're called CRPGs.
Yeah.
That it's like, they don't age well. They really don't.
No, they don't.
The lore is probably phenomenal, but like, they don't age well. So what would interest me the most, and probably you, is if they do more of an XCOM.
Listen.
They won't.
Yes, they won't. But if they rolled out and they were like, look, Diablo, right? We've been playing a lot of XCOM. It's now a turn-based strategy game where you have a squad of people and you're killing aliens. I'll be like, let's go, boys, Diablo. Let's go kill the devil or something.
I was thinking less of the squad-based element, but more of the, the ant farm element of developing all these structures and stuff. Yeah. And like, because from what I understand of Diablo, it's a town or a city that's on top of hell itself. And then it just erupts from the earth. So I was thinking maybe all the survivors up there would be developing ways to combat demons or something like that. I mean, that would be pretty interesting.
For me, it was almost like, what's that series called? Overlord. Overlord was like what I wanted, like that vibe. Overlord. Like, I played Overlord after I tried Diablo, and I was like, this is all I need. I don't need Diablo anymore. Like, and it's obviously not the same in any stretch of the imagination, but Overlord to me always felt like people who had played Diablo a lot and then had got a vibe and sort of went off and did something different with it.
And so, fun with the concept.
If they were to release a new proper Overlord game, then that would make me unrealistically hyped. But Diablo, I don't think they're going to do anything which will grab me. And that's not a bad thing, because I think it's going to serve the audience that exists, and they'll be super hyped and happy with it. So.
All right. Next up, we have Overwatch. Apparently, Blizzard has something new planned for Overwatch. Now, I'm pretty sure it's just going to be new characters, probably some new maps. But maybe they'll make a new game in the Overwatch franchise. Something that's different to what we got. That would be interesting. I'd be very interested to see what they do, because when you look at Overwatch, it's in a very unique position in that I always say Overwatch is like the Street Fighter 2 of this generation, where it's like everybody knows the characters. Even if you don't play the game, everybody knows the characters. Yeah. They're hugely popular, and everybody's interested in that world and to see more of it. And knowing Blizzard and the pedigree that they have of storytelling and lore building, they can really do a lot with the Overwatch world. They could make a game that's an RPG, or they can make a game that's maybe a strategy-based game. Similar to how, is it StarCraft that had like a shooting game coming out?
Oh, it had one. I don't know if there's a new one.
It didn't come out. I think it was called StarCraft Ghost or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's from like time ago.
So you can see that Blizzard, they do sort of treat their franchises in that way, where they see it as their own individual world, and they could probably build more titles based around this world, rather than going, we're going to make a game and then make a sequel to that game. They're more like, we're going to make a world and then make a game set in that world, then another game set in that world. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, I think if they do anything with Overwatch, it'll just be a new update. It's the Overwatch League is literally just finished. The finals were like 2 weeks ago or something. So if they're going to make a significant change to the game, or do something like a new game mode or whatever, now would be the time to do it. I think interest in the game is probably, I know certainly for me, the interest in the game reinvigorated after the finals, after watching the finals. And so I think if they're going to do something significant with it, now would be the time. I don't think we'll see a sequel, just because I think this one's too popular. I don't see why they would make a sequel yet. I love those characters, and the world is interesting enough to where if they were like, we're going to do a new game in that world, I would be interested. I just don't know what it would be, but I'd be interested. Yeah, whatever new stuff they have for that game would be interesting to me. Basically, it's gonna pique my interest.
Peak it right up. What do you think of I've thought this since the initial trailer. What would you say about Overwatch full CGI movie? I could see them doing that because they did Warcraft.
I think it would be great. I think if they did something which, I think they could make something brilliant out of that. Whether they have that aspiration to or not, I don't know, but I think they could make something very good out of that. Maybe a more in-depth sort of retelling of telling of the wars and everything that went on previously, and what the characters have been through. Just expanded on the thing, but I almost suspect. I think they should. I think it would be sick, but I almost suspect it's a bit like. There was a period of time where everyone wanted a Team Fortress 2 movie, basically, and I almost think it might go the way of that, where it's just this thing that never actually ends up happening.
But I think because they've already made Warcraft, the chances of it are a bit higher, at least a bit higher than with Team Fortress 2. Valve is mostly like, we don't do anything to do with cinematics, but Blizzard seem to be gearing up to do more and more to do with like cinematics here and there.
Well, it's because Valve, like Team Fortress 2 had all the Team Fortress 2 intros, like they had like a one for each character, and they had like cinematic for each character, in the way that not on a scale as grand as Overwatch has, and certainly Team Fortress 2's lore and world is not as deep as Overwatch is by any stretch of the imagination.
Does he have lore, by the way?
Team Fortress 2?
I don't think it does. I think it just has characters that are.
There is sort of lore to it. It's not like this deep thing. It's not, or it's not as deep as Overwatch is. Overwatch has a lot of lore very early on, whereas Team Fortress 2 is sort of built up over time. But it does have aspects of lore.
Somewhat lore. We'll call it a semi-lore.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a comic book of Team Fortress 2 somewhere. So.
Really?
It's good.
All right.
Just read it.
That's it for Blizzard. They most likely have other things, but I'm not covering Door or anything like that. I just don't like them. That's just my own bias.
Again, they're good, but they serve their own audience very well. They very much like, they don't really tend to step out of their bounds that much. StarCraft was the one where they did try to really do something different with the franchise, and it didn't really work. And so they tend to stay within their own boundaries, and that's not a bad thing whatsoever. It just means that if you love them, you love them, and if you don't, you don't. Basically.
Next up, we have Square Enix, and they're showing off Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Now, this game's in an interesting position for me because I've played all the reboot games, and I think I've played some of the old ones, like the first one and the second one, and I think Angel of Darkness. Never beat any of the old ones, but I beat both of the rebooted ones. And this one seems to be, unfortunately, more of the same for me. Like, Lara in the rebooted timeline, when the first game came out, it really did feel like it was going, okay, we're going to flesh out Lara Croft. She's rebooted, she's more vulnerable. And she was for the first half of the first game. And then she sort of turned into Nathan Drake in terms of abilities.
I don't even know if it was the first half. It was real early. It was like it was like the beginning was like she's never done anything before, and then I'm almost certain if I went back and played it now, within 2 hours she was just popping heads like there was no tomorrow.
Yes, really fast. And like I stopped really caring about her as a character and started to care more about, cool, hopefully you guys just put more puzzles in and a bit more RPG aspects in, and they did in the sequel, and I liked it a lot. But you sort of need to do more now. Like, if it's the effect of Tomb Raider to Rise of the Tomb Raider was like, you're just expanding upon it. You're not really adding too much. It's just more of the same, but expanded. And unfortunately, this feels like that again. It's like more of the same, just expanded. Like, I still don't care about Lara. I really don't care about Lara at all. Like, there's nothing that I could really latch on to. With Nathan Drake, it's like, oh, he's charismatic. And in Uncharted 4, it was like, he just can't give up. It's actually a problem. He can't give it up. It was the main storyline of the game. And they really fleshed him out. While in the previous games, it was like, oh, he's a lovable goof that's really good at shooting people and climbing things. And then in number 4, they really And even in 3, they really did start to address who he is as a person. And I'd say even in portions of 2 as well.
I think the thing is like, it's been like, if you compare them directly, they've never made, like, they made a big deal when the new Tomb Raider got rebooted about it being she's never done anything before. This is like new. This is Lara when she first starts. Like, she's not popping heads. She's not killing people. Like, and there's that whole scene where you kill the deer, where it's like this big, like, emotional moment. But from there to the next stage where she's just killing everyone is really quick, and it doesn't. Yeah. The build up isn't perfect for it, and so they made a big deal about it, but they didn't really stick the landing. I think the game was actually fun, and I did enjoy playing the game, but like storyline wise, it didn't quite stick the landing. Whereas with Nathan Drake, they've never not stuck the landing. Like, if you go back and play 1, of course, yeah, it's janky, but it's not.
Dude, I love Uncharted 1.
I love it as well, but it's nowhere near as good as 2 or 3 or 4. But
I like it more than 3.
The story, fight me. The story, like, is the story works. Like, it lays it out perfectly, and sequence to sequence goes perfectly, and the build up over the 4 games works exactly how it's meant to work. And the whole point of that is because it starts with him already being the adventurer. So you're never in a situation where you're not having to like essentially justify it. It just is, and you go, and that makes sense in the world, and then you start to flesh out the details after. Whereas with this, they try to make this grand plan where they're like, it's new, she's not done this before, but the way the game mechanics work is it sort of denotes that they have to just start shooting things, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. But I think they are fun, and the new one, for me, I'm interested in because it seems to be... It feels like the end of this sort of arc that they've been telling. Like, she's gone full Batman essentially at this point, and is stalking people and like doing all this next stuff. And I'm really excited for the gameplay. It looks really fun. Or I'm really interested in the gameplay. I shouldn't say fun, but we'll see. I don't think you can really compare them to Uncharted just because Uncharted is so much better.
Yeah. Wow, shots fired. It's unfortunate,
but it is.
It's funny you actually say Batman, because I was actually looking at it and comparing it to the Arkham trilogy, trilogy to the Arkham trilogy, and I was like, why did I love the Arkham trilogy so much, and it sticks the landing so much, and is memorable to me in so many ways, and Tomb Raider isn't? And I realized it's because in the Arkham trilogy, with every game, they try something very different. With the first game, it was very enclosed, it was a Metroidvania 3D game. And with the second game, they said, okay, we're going to make an open world now. And we're not going to take away any of your abilities, we're just going to add to them. I'm going to put new things in there. And with the third game, they made the Batmobile such a humongous part of, what the game was. And they kept taking risks throughout the games. So each of them felt distinct to me. Unfortunately, with this new Tomb Raider, it feels like so much of the first game and the second game bleed together in my mind. And they keep trying to push the narrative of she's vulnerable and she's still trying to train, and it's like she's already been through 2 grand adventures. I don't know how she's not Tomb Raider yet. she's already the Tomb Raider. So the idea of it being an arc, like a 3-game arc of her becoming Tomb Raider, it's like she should have been Tomb Raider by the second game, in my opinion.
I think this one looks a lot darker. And I think if you're thinking about it from like a character standpoint, you could understand how she goes through the incredibly dark one to come out at the other side to be like, oh, I'm now essentially like Nathan Drake. Like, Nathan Drake had to go through the dark stuff to get to where he is. Like, to be this happy-go-lucky guy, and every time someone brings up the thing about Drake is, every time someone brings up the dark stuff, he sort of like waves it off, and it's like, no, I don't need to, whatever, like, la 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 la, like, and there's clearly like emotional trauma to it. And like, I think with Tomb Raider, they have aimed for something that they've not quite hit.
You say not quite, but I think they haven't hit it whatsoever. They spectacularly failed at that element.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know if I'd say that, but they certainly have. I think the thing is neither of us are saying they've hit it. I think is the biggest problem. They just haven't. And so this is like the end of that arc, and I could see what they go with next is really interesting to me. But the gameplay of this one is super interesting to me. Like every gameplay thing I've seen from it makes me excited to play it, and I'm very interested. I'm just very interested. But the story is, like I say, is the problem for that.
Yeah. For me, I'm definitely buying it no matter what. The only question is if I'm going to buy it brand spanking new. Right, and so far, it's like, I'm not buying it new.
No,
but what what I want to know about more is more, I like the puzzles a bit more. So for me, the second game added more puzzles in. I was like, love it. There's a lot of things I loved about the second game. I really think it was an underrated game. It's just, the combat itself, because I've played so much of it, it's like, I would prefer if you guys showed me more about the puzzle aspects a bit more. Like, show her do more tomb raiding. Personally, that's my impetus for playing it, I think. I just want to see a bit more of that. But it does look okay. It's just, it's a bit disappointing in my eyes. I think it just could be a lot better than what we have, if you get what I mean.
No, it is like I say, they set out to do a big grand story thing, and they didn't quite stick the landing, and that affects everything else about it, unfortunately. I think they only publicized the shooty bang bang stuff because that's the stuff that sells. They seem to still be a bit scared to show full-on puzzle elements and trailer stuff, which makes sense, but I don't know whether I agree or disagree.
Well, I think we're long past the time of audiences needing to have to see gunplay in trailers to really be invested. Like, by now they should understand that, because there's been so much things that are evidence to the contrary. So probably I agree with you with not really agreeing with that choice. But next up from Square Enix, I don't know if they will show this off, but it's possible because they showed it off at E3, and that's Babylon's Fall. Now, personally, I remember them showing off a trailer for that, and they went into the lore. We're saying lore a lot. I'm saying lore a lot.
It's my terrible influence on people.
I should put the glasses on so I complete the whole setup. Oh, you have your glasses on. I'm not going to put mine on.
Let's talk about the lore.
But when you consider that Square Enix's game Octopath Traveler did as well as it did, I think there's been renewed interest by a lot of people in Square Enix's unique individual RPGs that are not Final Fantasy.
Right.
So I would love to see them talk a bit more about Babylon's Fall. I don't know exactly what it is yet, but based from E3, hopefully they show it off.
Yeah, just same. Like, interest is peaked, nowhere near excited or hyped. I just want to see actually what it is, and then we go from there. But it's, I mean, from what I've seen, it looks interesting enough.
Yeah. Alright, next up we have, well, EA. I know I sounded less excited for those guys, but
talk about Madden. I love American football.
I love American football and yearly titles. But I'm going to talk about one game in particular with EA, because I don't think EA deserves us to dwell on more than one game, because they're EA. And it's a game that's been getting a lot of criticism recently, and since its first trailer, I want to say, and that's Battlefield 5. Now, a lot of people who play Battlefield still look at it as a military simulator shooter gun thingy. Yeah. Now, I don't completely agree with that. I think that there are elements of it that are very realistic and very historical, but there's also a lot of elements that aren't. But I think for people who love the whole military simulation thing, there's an audience there that enjoys stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of criticism from that audience when it comes to the idea of why do they keep showing a lady with a robot hand in World War II Germany. And I could sort of agree there, because I think EA has sort of missed out a chance of doing something interesting. Because I don't disagree with the idea of let's put female characters in it. I think that they could have done something more interesting, because, you know, if you remember, there was a lot of espionage in World War II, and they could have possibly made a scenario in which you play a female character behind enemy lines, and then you can make different gameplay based around that scenario. But it seems EA has sort of gone the boring route of, hey, let's make the whole presentation more action-packed and more people jumping out of two-story buildings and not breaking their knees, and tanks just going straight past you, and robot hands, and tough lady who's tough with no personality because tough lady. But I do agree with a lot of people's criticisms with Battlefield 5. I personally do not play it. I have no interest in the series, but just from an outsider's perspective, I think they're only doing this to like showing off the female characters so much in a very lazy way to I want to say pander to a specific demographic, but try and get in on a different audience. Like, it just feels completely money, like they're only doing it for the money rather than doing something interesting with what they can do with that added element. What about you?
Complex, I guess. I mean, I don't think the inclusion. How do I word this?
You have to be real careful, man.
I think it's partly because I don't really think about it that much, because Battlefield's just dog shit. So I don't really get. Like, the thing is like Battlefield to me is like this multiplayer thing. The ones I've enjoyed the most are when, like Battlefield 4, for example, I really enjoyed playing because I could just get in an ATV and just do dumb stuff while everyone else is having their fake war. Like,
wait,
I
they have ATVs?
I could get in the helicopter, and then everyone would jump in the helicopter thinking I'm some great helicopter pilot, and then I end up crashing it into a building, and I'm having fun, and they all hate me for it. I think it's the inclusion of women is just ridiculously long overdue, and I don't really care how they do it. Personally, I think just do it, because it's stupid that it's not been before. It's fucking like, it's just unbelievably stupid to me that it hasn't happened before. I don't get why it hasn't. I think when you're talking about like something more they could do with it, yeah, they could do something more with the franchise, but I think they're just content to be the same thing it always has been, and it just always will be. And so by that context, I'm happy that they are including women, and that it is that was how they led with it. I think it's a good move. I think but it's still just Battlefield, isn't it? It's still the exact same thing it's always going to be. Like Hardline was the one where they tried to do something different, and I actually enjoyed Hardline. But I don't know. Like Hardline was one of those things where I enjoyed it, but it had a how do I word it? It was enjoyable, but clearly wasn't 1,000% there. Like it was a B title. Do you know what I mean? It was one of the ones that used to be able to get on PS2, and that's why I liked it, because I liked something a bit different, but within the same sort of vibe. And then some of the dumb game modes were quite fun.
I don't want to interrupt you, but
no, go on.
I love playing as a police officer. You get to say, "I am the law," and then put someone down.
It's good, man. It's good.
I love being a cop.
The idea of making like essentially Bad Boys the game was good. That's what I'm saying.
I love Beat Cop as well.
Unfortunately, the one time they did try to even mildly step out of those boundaries, it didn't do very well. And I think, unfortunately, that's all doomed the franchise into whatever it is. So, for me, like, just include women. It won't go very far. I don't care. Just let it be what it is. Like, as long as everyone who plays those games are represented, then I'm happy. Because goddamn, I ain't gonna play them.
Yeah, I do not play these games. I just wanted to sort of talk about that particular angry thing that all the fans seem to be riling up against. Moving on from the garbage fire that is EA, we'll move on to the not garbage fire, but promising studio, sometimes garbage fire, that is Ubisoft. Now, the main thing they're going to be showing off is the main thing they've been showing off at Gamescom since, I want to say, 2012? Assassin's Creed. They always tend to show off Assassin's Creed very heavily at Gamescom. And this particular one, Odyssey, I think both of us are quite interested in.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what you've seen so far of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, outside of E3? If you've been following their gameplay presentations.
I'm just interested. Like, it's just they've made it more RPG, and they just seem to have hit all the things I sort of want them to hit. Now I just want them to have a true Assassin's bit. Like, can I be an assassin, please? But it is Assassin's Creed game in the fact that I feel like it's weighed down a little bit, but by its lore and by the way they have to do things, and it's like the perfect Assassin's Creed game is Shadow of Mordor, IMO. But like, it looks really interesting, and it's the most interested I've ever been in Assassin's Creed since. I don't know, since that original trailer for Assassin's Creed 1, I guess. It's the most interested I've ever been, so.
Fun fact, my first the first time I ever saw Assassin's Creed 1 was like in I think it was a Game Master magazine. They had a full feature, and I was like, yo, these graphics.
Yeah.
And then I remember like at the beginning of this gen when I saw Assassin's Creed Unity, I was like, yo, these graphics.
Yeah.
So it's just a continuing cycle, because with Odyssey and Origins, the same thing happened. But yeah, similar way, I love the fact they've made it into the RPG, because Assassin's Creed for the longest time has been games where I look at and it's like, if I pick this up now, I'm gonna be playing this for weeks, and am I gonna want to do that? Sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't. And this time it's the full RPG, so it sort of fits into that a bit more. That whole time sink, just do a bunch of shit.
I think it's just, I think they're
it's
making...
a natural progression.
Yeah, exactly.
In my opinion.
Exactly, yeah. It's what we just said about Battlefield, basically, but they're actually doing it.
Yeah. Next up, we have probably two of our favorite games of both of us, one of our favorite games of all time. And that is potentially Rayman news, maybe?
Rayman Origins.
Rayman news, maybe?
Rayman Origins 2.
Just give me something. Get out of here with you. Give me a Rayman Legends sequel, man. Even if you port the mobile game that you made that was like in the Rayman Origins Legends vein.
Did you play those?
I didn't.
They're actually really good.
I heard that, but it's like I can't get past the touchscreen controls. Just
they're really
let me
good,
play
though.
it on my Vita or on my PS4.
But like, those touchscreen controls better than any other game. It's like simple, and it's like it's an auto scroller, so you just it's really good though.
It's the Infinity Blade effect. It's like it's made for mobile, so it works.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna get anything, but if we ever did, it's the Fable 4 thing again. It's like, if we
Crush
ever
your
did, I'd
toes,
just die of happiness.
cross your fingers, cross your dicks. Just maybe. Next
My
up.
dick is crossed.
My dick is crossed. Next up, we have SEGA, and I'm just looking at the list now, and it's like, I think SEGA might actually have the most things I'm interested in at Gamescom. All the confirmed games I'm interested in. Now, you love kart races.
Yeah.
Kart races are your jam.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on Team Sonic Racing?
I think what they've shown off has not been good.
Really?
For most people, I think it hasn't been. I totally get the sentiment that most people have, which is this doesn't look great, and I understand where people are coming from with that. I think for me specifically, I'm like, the two games previously in this have been really, really, really good, and I'm incredibly excited for the next one, and I think that I have faith in it currently. I understand why people wouldn't, but I currently do.
So, would you say you will buy, rent, or possibly steal?
I never steal anything. I'm a good citizen. No, I'd buy it. I would 100% buy it.
Never give back. Sorry, by steal I mean borrow from friend and never give back.
Maybe. No, I think for me, I'd buy it. I'm gonna get, like, I'm not gonna get it straight away, just because I don't buy anything at launch anymore. There are very few things I buy at launch. I'm only planning to buy 3 games at launch the entire year.
Spider-Man.
So, no, I'm planning to buy Red Dead Redemption 2, Spyro Reignited Trilogy, and PES 19. They're the only ones I'm planning to buy at launch this year.
PES is your jam, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay. Next up, we have Total War 3 Kingdoms. I'm personally really hyped for this because I love Dynasty Warriors. Or I loved it, but I really like the whole romance of the 3 Kingdoms story. And I've been wanting to get more into strategy games recently because I love games like Surviving Mars and Crusader Kings 2.
Yeah.
And so on. And the whole idea of going, well, now you're a general in ancient China. And you have all these characters you played as in Dynasty Warriors, but now more historically accurately represented. Plus, from what I hear about Total War, it's pretty freaking fun.
Yes.
So, I'm personally really hyped for this. and all the CGI trailers is showing up is making me go, ooh. And since Nintendo's not giving me my strategy fix with Fire Emblem, well, I'm gonna have to go to Total War, Nintendo. Sega wins again. Nintendo don't. I'm a dork. I'm a huge dork.
I back it, 100%.
I'm a 90s dork. All right, what's your opinions on it?
Yeah, Total War's a good game. They're good games, fun. I like strategy games. I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm not hyped for it. I know I've like, if I have a strategy fix, I'll just go get it from one of the other Total War games I already own, basically.
Wait, have you played? You've played them a lot.
Yeah, check my Steam. I've got quite a few of them. Yeah. They're good. They're good. They're worth getting. They're one of the better strategy games, in my opinion.
Can I make a dynasty and then go, my son is now the new general here?
You can do it. You can do it in your head if you want.
Oh, and now I marry my daughter for this alliance, and then I'm gonna fuck you later because I'm gonna get other guys to ruin you and take your titles. Crusader Kings makes you into a monster.
You should play. I mean, Crusader Kings 2 is the one. You should play like Europa Universalis and all that as well. Before that's good, but no, they're fun. They're good games. They're good. They're very good strategy games. If you're looking specifically for that, then you won't get it. But they are very, very good strategy games.
Yeah, I'll give it a try. I'm not even give it a try. I'll definitely buy it. I don't know if I'll buy it new. I might wait for a sale, but I'm gonna get it.
Again, once you're on Steam, man, you just wait for a sale. Everything's on sale eventually.
Yeah. And finally for Sega, we have Fist of the North Star, Lost Paradise, which is basically Yakuza Fist of the North Star edition. It's Yakuza in everything but the fact that the characters are Fist of the North Star. And if anybody knows me, you guys will know I'm a Yakuza fanatic. Ever since I played Yakuza 0 last year, turned out to my game of the year, Yakuza fanatic. I'm Fist of the North Star. I love the fact it's so stupid. It's such a stupid show. Just the things they do is so stupid in a great way. And when you just mix the two together, it's like, I love it. I love it. Thoughts on what you've seen of Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise?
I have no opinion. I want to play the Yakuza games. I have no opinion on that one specifically.
I thought you'd have more of a hot take.
No, not personally. I mean,
hot.
Fist of North Star, I don't watch. I don't like. I've never seen or read anything from the scene of Fist of North Star at all. Like, I really want to get into Yakuza games. I've just not. So like, if you're saying it's a Yakuza, from everything I've heard as well, it's a Yakuza game, but in that world, and it's like, that's interesting to me. But as someone who's not into that world, then or has no connection to that world, then I just want to get into Yakuza. So I have no real. It looks, but everything I've seen from it looks like a good game. So
yeah. And finally, on the same note of Yakuza, the Yakuza 3 to 5 localization for PS4 is a possibility. Well, they announced it, but I'm hoping they have more information from it. Hopefully they talk about when it's coming out, because I wanna play all the games in the series. I'm getting close with Kiwami 2 coming out soon. I'm getting close, man. Yeah. I'm ready. Next up we have Valve, and recently, I think today, Valve accidentally leaked their Twitch competitor.
Yeah, you're gonna have to tell me about this, because I've not heard anything about this whatsoever.
It was literally only today. Today they showed off their Twitch competition. I think it's called Steam TV. So they're looking to get into the space that YouTube and Twitch are currently in. So they could make some big waves, because Steam integration. So like, while playing the game, you also could just be streaming it straight from Steam. That's quite good, I would say. But I don't know if they could really make a dent when you consider that Twitch is as big as it is, and its only real competition is YouTube gaming, and even that is like, Twitch is huge.
Well, so you've got Mixer as well now, which is another one, which is Microsoft's.
Mixer. I don't like that name.
Mixer. No, neither do I. It's a very crowded market. Well, it's not even that crowded. It's just it's dominated. It's a dominated
one
market.
Guy.
It's dominated, and it's like, I don't think. Okay, from everything that you've just said to me, basically, I wouldn't. If I was to take a guess, unless they did something significantly different or significantly better, which I don't know how you would do personally, I can't see them making any sort of dent in that market whatsoever.
One thing I think they can probably do is they may do things where it's like, if you watch this amount of hours on Twitch TV, you get discounts on this game, or you can get this game for free. You know how Amazon's been doing things with Twitch recently?
Yeah.
That could be big. That could definitely be something they could.
It could be, but ultimately you have to get the creators over. Because those platforms are nothing without their creators, and so how you create, like for example, Ninja, right? Would Ninja move across? No, he would just stay on Twitch. There's no point to him moving across whatsoever. And I think Twitch has expanded out of gaming as well. Like, there are other things that happen on Twitch now, and it's making it a bigger and bigger deal. And I think that I can't see, like, Valve would have to create a ecosystem which would be better for creators than Twitch is. And the reason why people like Twitch is because it's better for them than YouTube. And so it's an interesting proposition. I don't know. It's a really interesting proposition. I don't think they would. Well, you know what Valve are like? They just like getting involved with stuff, don't they?
Yeah.
They make a console, they make VR, they make weird controllers, they make loads of stuff that's really interesting.
Then they abandon it, except for Steam.
I don't know. I don't know if they've abandoned it. I don't know.
What have they done with Steam Control recently? I have one.
So I sort of want one of those Steam controllers. Only specific.
Mine?
Maybe. I want it specifically.
I'll give it to you.
I want it specifically so I could. This is. I'm about to go real nerdy here, and I apologize. I want it specifically so I can play Civilization while I'm lying down. That's my biggest problem in life. That's my biggest problem in life.
I'll just give it to you. I'll just give you the controller.
I appreciate it. You'll make all my dreams come true.
Dreams.
But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. That's mad though. When I saw it on the list you gave me, I was like, what the hell is going on here?
They may not even show it off, but it's like I saw it on GameSpot today and was like, they might be preparing this for Gamescom. Okay, next up we have CD Projekt Red, and personally I think they're just going to be showing off Gwent.
Yeah, I can't see them showing off anything to do with Cyberpunk, so it'll probably just be Gwent if anything.
We got some new Gwent cards. Maybe they show off or tease Witcher related content, because they are European. They're a European studio, so they may go, oh,
maybe, but I doubt it. I think anyone who would be working on Witcher is on Cyberpunk now.
Yeah, I think they're just there for Gwent probably. Fine. Next up we have Bethesda. Now the obvious thing that they're gonna show off is Fallout 76, which
I don't think they will.
Really?
Nah, I think at this point you go away until you're a bit closer. And
But it's quite close. It's very close.
You might get a new trailer.
Yeah, a new trailer or some new gameplay. They've been doing a lot of stuff as well. They had QuakeCon recently. Was it last week? Where they showed off a lot more of the new Doom, which probably made you lose your shit, I'm guessing.
It does look great. I'm very excited. Just feed it directly into my veins, please. That's kind of what I need.
Just crush it up like cocaine and just stuff it into your arm.
I'm sure that's definitely how that cocaine works. But I wanna. Yeah, it just looks great. But I think I think we'll get a new trailer for Fallout 76, and that's it at most. I don't think we'll get anything else.
I think we were gonna get, because we didn't see this at QuakeCon and we didn't see it at E3 that much. We might see some of Wolfenstein Youngblood.
Yeah, that was one of the things I'm looking forward to most. I don't know. I don't know. Do we have a release date on that? I can't remember.
No, there's no release date. It was just shown off as a teaser, similarly to Doom. But Doom had another trailer afterwards, so I think this might be the time where they go, yeah, we'll show some of Wolfenstein Youngblood now. Because it's two different devs doing it, but they're both on the Bethesda. You got idsoft and who's the other one on Wolfenstein?
Machine Games.
Machine Games.
I would
like to see it.
It's super interesting to me. That's one of the things Bethesda are doing I'm most excited for.
Right, next up we have Epic Games. Now, aside from Fortnite, I don't really know what they will be doing.
Are they even making anything but Fortnite? Like, not to diss them at all, but is that a thing that's happening?
No, I think it's just Fortnite that they work on now. We just do Fortnite. Personally, I think since we're so close to next gen and since Nvidia is there, I'm hoping that they may start teasing Unreal Engine 5.
Have they?
They haven't even announced or anything like that, but since we are getting closer and closer, now would be the time when they start to just lay the seeds and go, hey, we're working on Unreal Engine 5. And here's an example of some of the things you could come to expect in this new engine when we show it off more. Because this has a lot of... Eurogamer, unlike E3, has a lot more tech guys there in terms of NVIDIA's there. And people who are more interested in the actual... what goes behind the game rather than just the outside presentation. So I think this would be a perfect time to start putting those seeds there, because this gen's almost over, and Unreal Engine 5 is something I think is most likely being worked on.
Yeah, I mean, almost certainly. I mean, I suspect this, even like before 4 was finished, they were probably working on 5. I just suspect that's the way it works.
So hopefully, that's what I hope they show off, because I'm not interested whatsoever in Fortnite. It's not my thing. I don't hate it or anything. It's just, I just don't play it.
It's really good, man.
I know you love it.
I fell out of it for a while just because I just didn't have a PS4 set up and I just didn't play it a lot. But then recently, me and my friends have gone back to it. Like me and Adam have gone back to it like last week, basically. And like they've added carts and stuff like that, and so we're just running around doing dumb stuff. It's great. It's the thing is they've killed it so hard with Fortnite that I don't like the way they've laid it out. Is sort of like the what anyone could do with any free game. I think they've raised the bar for what free to play games are now with Fortnite hugely, and so it'd be interesting to see what they decide. Like I just looked on their Wikipedia page and I think they've got an Unreal tournament coming.
Really?
Yeah, which I sort of vaguely remember now, it being a sort of Overwatch wannabe, but whatever, man. It's like they haven't traditionally created stuff that I've been mega interested in anyway. Like Gears of War was the one, and then even then it's like that's gone from them now. That's Microsoft's. So whatever.
And finally, we end this with the fuck Konami.
I mean, I don't disagree with that.
But
I mean, they're giving me PES, so I can't hate them on too much. But yeah.
But that's what they give you now. But the reason why I put Konami on this list, there's other devs on that are there that I haven't listed because I don't think there's much coming from them.
Yeah.
But the reason why Konami is there in particular is only because of one thing, and that's because recently there's been a director assigned to the Metal Gear Solid movie, and over the past month he's been tweeting images of all the conceptual art for the film that he's working on, and it looks pretty fucking good. If everything goes well, it should be showing off the video, showing off all the tweets as we're talking. It looks like, because he's basically been combining a lot of the aspects of one game with another game. Like you'd see Snake in an Octocamo suit like in MGS4, but it's a young Snake from like MGS1. Then you'll see giant machines similar to Salanthropus in MGS5, but it's like in an MGS1 setting or MGS3 setting, and it's like the guy obviously loves Metal Gear Solid. It's not in continuity at all. Is it
being made by what's his name? What's the guy's name?
The guy who made King Kong.
Yeah, Jordan something.
He has a long beard.
Yeah, great beard. That's what I was about to say. Excellent beard. I back that beard 100% of the time.
Now, normally I have no interest whatsoever in movie games because they never end up well. And this one very well might not end up well, but it is interesting to see with the potential that is there, and the fact that this guy is trying something different, and he obviously understands what MGS is. And even Kojima was like, yep, this guy is the guy I'm going to choose to make my movie. I think he chose him. I don't think it was Konami that actually chose him. So this must have gone on before even MGS5 happened and Fallout happened, I'm guessing. And they even showed off the conceptual art for the way Snake will look, and he looks great. Looks really cool. It was like a 3D render, and he looks really neat.
I think it's the problem obviously with translating games to films is that games can be ridiculously long. There's obviously the gameplay elements, but like games can be ridiculously long and complicated.
Particularly Metal Gear Solid.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you want to talk about the poster child for that. I mean, you're talking about Metal Gear. So, it would be interesting to see what you could do with that and how you could take that. But ultimately, I don't know. Like, it's interesting to me. It's interesting to me, and I don't know if it will ever come out, just because I mean, the Uncharted film's been in development for how long, and the Uncharted could quite easily turn into a film, let alone Metal Gear. So yeah,
I don't want an Uncharted film though. I really don't. The games to me are already films.
Did you see the fan film that came out recently? The one with Nathan Fillion in it.
I saw like the thumbnail. Was it good?
It's surprisingly good. Like, I was shocked by how, like, even like there's one bit where Nathan Fillion is getting basically like carried, and the noises he's making are so Nathan Drake. It's actually absurd. Like if you closed your eyes, you could just see this is exactly the sort of stuff Nathan Drake would make. Like the sort of it was really good. You should have watched. It's only 15 minutes long. It's really good.
Does he scream Sully?
He doesn't scream Sully, but he does scream "Oh crap."
Oh yes.
And he does sort of talk to himself as he does stuff, which is really great. But no, it's good. You should watch it. But yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get an MGS movie just because of how absurd that franchise is. But if we did, it'd be sick.
The reason why I'm highlighting it is because it seems quite like things are happening with it. Normally with these films, they're just like, oh, it's in development, and then there's just radio silence. But we're seeing things with it at the very least. And we're sort of seeing where his creative vision is. So it's like, I think it's very possible, especially when you consider that MGS is and they're doing it as an anniversary thing as well. They're saying this is to celebrate MGS's, is it 30th anniversary?
I can't remember.
Yeah, something like that. And then, so I think Konami, they're not smart. They've proven they're not smart. But like, they're not gonna do anything else with the series since Survive failed so badly. So they may do something with this and show something at Gamescom to do with this movie. Possibly.
I just can't see it happening.
I have no idea anything else they're gonna do.
I just can't see it happening with the way the films work. I just can't see anything.
But also,
happening
you need to consider that Castlevania is their other property, and that's also doing well as a Netflix series. So I think
true. I think TV series is more likely than a film, but
yeah. I remember back in the day when they was like, let's get Christian Bale as Snake. Don't get Christian Bale as Snake, you idiots.
Well, it's the same thing where I said Nathan Fillion should play Drake, and it's like, yeah, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't know. It's weird. It's a really weird thing. Like, transitioning games to films is just next to impossible. It's such a weird thing. Tomb Raider did it best. IMO.
Which one?
The first
Angelina Jolie? Yes, that one. I agree with.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best game to film adaptation has ever been.
It's the lips and like the knockers that.
Well, I'm not gonna say that specifically. I was more saying I actually just like the film. But even then, the film's like super cheesy, and I don't think is a particularly. It's not a world-class film by any stretch of the imagination. But it does a good job like transitioning it and making it a film property.
Honestly, I'll say I enjoyed the Mortal Kombat movie a lot. Partially,
I mean,
because don't judge me, Charlie.
I'm not judging you.
You're judging me hard.
I'm not judging you, bro.
I can feel your.
I just think you have a horrendous taste. I'm not judging you. I don't.
The Mortal Kombat theme song, and the fact the fights were as cheesy as they were.
Yeah. No, I do think it's an enjoyable film. Like, again, I don't think it's a great film, but I do think it's
also
enjoyable.
fun.
Which one?
Resident Evil 1, where the guy gets sliced with the laser.
Oh yeah. Actually, that's a good point. The Resident Evil films have done very well for themselves.
The first one I liked, the other one didn't.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think I enjoyed the first one more than I enjoyed any game less. But they do well. They do well in the box office. They sell relatively well and continue to be made. So I don't have to get any more of them. But I don't know. There's interesting ways to do it. But I do think that transitioning Metal Gear is virtually impossible.
Yeah, but the reason why I find it interesting is that he's not trying to remake one of the games. He's taking elements of the games and making its own story. So that's what makes me believe it's going to be a bit more possible.
I think
because he can't adapt any of the MGS games.
As far as I'm aware from like interviews I've seen,
one.
The guy who's making it is super, like, I can't remember his name, but Jordan something is
he's a huge fan.
Right, and I think that does make it more likely, but at the same time I don't know whether it's likely enough to actually do it. Actually, I don't think it makes. I just don't think it will happen. I just genuinely don't think we'll ever see it.
All right. Well, that was a shot in the dark, putting MGS movie trick.
Oh yeah, 100%. I like shot in the darks are great. Shot in the darks are great.
Just shoot all the people you can't see. It's fine.
Crash Team Racing 2. Let's go.
All the babies.
What?
What? All right, guys. That should be it for this stream of this stream. Is that what you say? No, you say this. What is this? Is that a podcast? I don't know. We'll say this episode. No, this whatever it is. This video. This is the end of the video.
It's the end, bruv. Like, comment, subscribe.
Like MGS free.
It's just the end. Accept it.
Just accept it.
We enjoyed it as well, but just like at the end, sometimes things have to end. You know what I mean?
Let go. You have to let go.
The best part of anything is when it finishes.
Yeah. Like sex.
I mean, or like wrestling matches for sure.